Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the Pythagorean theorem. So first let me explain to you what that is. It's a formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the reason we use this, it's to find the missing side length, the missing side length, specifically of a right triangle. So let's take a look at a right triangle, some important information. So I want you to draw a right triangle. So draw the L, that's going to be your right angle, and then draw the slanted side or the other side. And then you've got to draw that little square in the middle. That's what tells you a triangle is a right triangle. It has one right angle in it. So let's take a look at these. The L, and I always make an L with my finger to find the right angle. Those two are called the legs. And in our Pythagorean theorem, that's our A and our B. Doesn't matter which one is A and which one is B. Now the slanted side, or the way I like to find it, is find your right angle and point to the other side. That is your hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. That's always your C or your longest side. Always, always, always. A and B are your legs, and C is always your hypotenuse or your longest side. So now let's take a look at how we actually use this Pythagorean theorem. And today we're only going to focus on using it to find the C or the hypotenuse. So let's do a few examples. So first I want you to draw another right triangle. And let's label this side as 8 and this side as 4. And I'm going to use an X, which we know it's the C, but I'm going to use an X because it means we don't know what it is. We learned that earlier in the year. Also, get your calculator open because these are calculator active. You need to use your calculator for accuracy. So let's do this. First, write your formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Next, find your L. That's always the first thing I do. That's your right angle. And pick one of those. If you have both of them, which we will in this whole lesson, make one of those A and one of those B. It doesn't matter which is which. So I said A was 8. So I'm going to plug these into my formula, my Pythagorean theorem. So A squared is 8 squared. B is 4. So 4 squared equals c squared. Now I'm going to take you step by step on these. Some calculators you can just type it right in, but again I want to show you step by step. 8 squared, which really means 8 times 8, is 64. 4 squared, remember we learned this recently. Oops, I wrote the answer instead of the problem. Which really means 4 times 4 is 16 equals c squared. So now I'm going to add 64 plus 16 is 80 equals c squared. We don't want c squared. We want c. So remember we said the opposite of a square is square root. So I'm going to type in my calculator, find the square root of 80, and you get about 8.9. So my C, or my missing side, is about 8.9 units long. And I'm going to circle that. So let's do a few more. So first, let's draw our right triangle. Draw your right angle. And let's say this side is 5. And this side is 5. And we want to know what the missing side is. So again, I look for my L. If I have both sides of my right angle, I have A and I have B. That's important. Now to find the missing side, I know I want C, or my hypotenuse. So I write my formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Next, I said A was 5, so 5 squared I said b was 5, also 5 squared, equals c squared. Well, 5 squared, or 5 times 5, is 25, plus 5 squared, again, that means 5 times 5 is 25, equals c squared. Now I add 25 plus 25 is 50, equals c squared. But I don't want c squared, I want c. So my last step is to take the square root. So using my calculator, I want to type in the square root of 50, and I get about 7.1. So that missing side length is about 7.1 units long. That's what the Pythagorean theorem helps us do. Find the missing side length of a right triangle. Let's keep going. I want you to draw your triangle a little differently this time. Put your L at the top like this, or your right angle. Make your right angle. And I want this side length to be 8. And I want this side length to be 4. And I'm not going to label that missing side. Okay? Sometimes it won't be labeled. We have to decide, do we have the A and B, or do we have one of the legs and the hypotenuse? Look for your L. I have both sides of the L, so I'm looking for C. I don't have C. So write your formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It doesn't matter which one is A and which one is B. Just label it so you'll remember. I said A was 8, so 8 squared, plus I said B was 4. 4 squared equals C squared. So let's square it. So 8 times 8 is 64. 4 times 4 is 16, equals C squared. Now I'm going to add those. 64 plus 16 is 80. That equals C squared. I don't want C squared, I just want C. The opposite of square is square root. So C equals, and I think we've already done that, square root of 80 is about 8.9. So my C is about 8.9 units long. Let's do a couple more. Okay, and again, we're going to draw our right triangle different ways, just so you can see it doesn't matter what it looks like. You find that L. You always ask yourself, do I have my L, or am I finding a part of my L, or my right triangle or right angle? So let's label, let's do this one as 11 and this side as 10. So let's ask ourselves, and actually let me flip my question. Do I have C or am I looking for C? Because that's really the different one. Find your L or your legs. Well, I have both of those, so that tells me I need to find my C or my hypotenuse. So let's do our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And by the way, yes, write this formula every time. If you do that, you'll memorize it without really having to work at it. Say it, write it, use it. All right. Does it matter which of these is A and which one is B? No. So I'm going to say this one's A, and I'm going to say 11 is B. So now let's plug it in. 11, oh wait, nope, I said 10 was A. So 10 squared plus, I said B was 11, squared from the formula equals C squared. So now let's do the exponents first. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121 equals C squared. It clearly says to add the two numbers, so I'm just doing what it tells me to do. 100 plus 121 is 221 equals C squared. We don't want C squared, we want C. So the opposite of square is square root. We do opposites to get rid of that square. That's why we do that. Type it in your calculator. square root of 221 is about 14.9 if you round that. So my missing side length, which is our C, is about 14.9 units long. So let's do one more. Let's draw it. So let's make our, I'm going to do it like this, guys. Boom, boom, boom. That's a little bit hard. Let me see. Let me make sure I've gotten a right angle. So I'm just going to turn it any old way. And I'm going to go boop, boop. There we go. That's a pretty decent right angle. Okay. And I'm going to say that this side is 7, this side is 5. And the reason I'm drawing these all kinds of different ways is I want you to understand it doesn't matter how they're turned on practice or on a test or whatever. It works the same way. The Pythagorean theorem works the same way. First, I want to look for the right angle, the L. Do I have C or do I need C? Well, if I have both sides of the L, I'm looking for my C or my hypotenuse. So that tells me the other two sides are A and B. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I want you to pause the video before I go any farther and try this on your own. Once you're finished, unpause it and see if you got the correct answer. And before you pause it, let's say that A is 7 and B is 5, or 5 is B. All right, so let's see how you did. We said A is 7, so this is going to be 7 squared plus, from the formula, we said B is 5 squared equals C squared. And we leave it as C because that's what we're looking for. We use letters to represent unknown numbers in math. So 7 squared, which means 7 times 7, is 49. 5 squared, which means 5 times 5, is 25, equals C squared. Now, it says to add, so I'm going to add 49 plus 25 is 74, equals C squared. Well, I've not answered what I need yet. I need C, not C squared, so my last step is to take that square root. So C equals, oops, and I'm typing in my calculator, square root of 74 is about 8.6. So my missing side length is about 8.6 units long. So I'd like for you to submit these notes and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.